I'm Chris Oppenheim. People call me Church. I'm the owner of Interstate Inc. in Los Angeles, California. We cater almost exclusively to recovering addicts, and we have a program in place to help artists with addiction issues get their lives and careers back on track. We're trying to raise awareness, educate others, and reduce the negative stigmas associated with addiction. We want everyone to know there is hope, we do recover, and most importantly, even broken crayons still color. Welcome to another episode of the Broken Crayons podcast here at Interstate Inc. I'm Church, and my guest for today is a man behind Felony Fights, Cage vs. Con, porn. Anyway, today, instead of advocating violence, he's helping knuckleheads like me get their shit together with Stairways Recovery Home, Stairways Resource Center, which is an intensive outpatient program. Most importantly, he's my friend, Michael Lynch. What's up, dude?
Thanks for having me, dude. It's kind of funny that we're going to be talking shit on camera. All these lights and cameras, I feel like I'm on a porn set again. The problem here is I'm the one getting drilled.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Well, so I'm in recovery. I have 14 years clean. Life has been a roller coaster. And any of you guys that know me from my past or watching me on film, I was all about the opposite of what I am today. I was all about violence and going in and out of prisons and, drugs and guns and that whole lifestyle. And, that lifestyle almost took me out. But, getting drilled on right here, trying to pay attention to the thing. I don't know, where do I begin? I was raised in the system. My parents didn't really want to be in the parenting game, and so
YA or something? Is that what it's called?
Before YA, when I was a kid, I was like running the streets, and when I was young, I used to try to hang out with all these guys that were, tough guys, and I learned throughout life that like who you surround yourself with is what you always become, and it absolutely is true. I was a little kid running around in Orange County, and I would run around with all these older gangster dudes, and I wanted to be like them. And what ended up happening is I ended up doing time like them and getting involved in all this stuff. And I joined a gang at 13, and it kind of went from there in life. I went to juvenile hall, California Youth Authority, the penitentiary, of course, and spent over 13 and a half years of my life incarcerated. And, that was my life. And when I was out, I'd get out and, I would just live that prison life out here on the streets. And I didn't really know any way to live, and I didn't get, any good instruction, I'll say. I was misinformed by misinformed people, my whole life. And, it's all I knew. And, one time I remember I always thought that like outside things were going to make me whole. That's like the story of my life. And, I was really poor growing up, and I always thought like, money was going to be, the thing that could fix it. And I could never understand how like rich celebrities and rich people like commit suicide. I'd be like, fuck, dude, give me the money. It'll make me happy, and fucking, it's weird how life went, because I had, I was always learned how to hustle as a little kid. I was like selling fireworks in school at 10. And then going into juvie and YA, I learned how to, sell, drugs and everything actually, in there, any kind of contraband and,
Crime college.
Yeah. And one time I was going up to prison, and I was heading up there for 6 years this time. And, some girl that I didn't even know her last name, came to visit me, and, she was a stripper, and I used to sell her and her friends cocaine. And, she came to visit me and told me she was pregnant, with my daughter. And, I was so pissed, I was so mad, and I was like, fuck you, God. And, my whole life, I hated God, and I was raised, before my grandparents died, I was raised Irish Catholic. I'm 100% Irish. And, I always was told that I'm going to go to hell for my, my thoughts and my actions, and I knew I was going to hell, and so, I
look good getting there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to have fun on the way. You know what I mean? And fun. I'll have all my friends there. I know you'll be there, dude. But, yeah, speaking of my friends, I'm so glad that you guys weren't swallowed.
Right.
But, yeah, so I
slid down and cracking my mama ass.
So I was so mad at God, because once again, for bringing another life into this world, and it was just going to be another generation of fuck ups, and I come from generation upon generation of fuck ups all the way back to Ireland. And, and I knew that like my daughter was fucked because, I'm just a convict gangster, going in and out of prisons, and her mom is a stripper and, on drugs as well. And, I spent those 6 years with every intention of getting out and being a good dad, and, I would read like parenting books and shit and watch my little TV on how like families got down. And, I thought, okay, what I got to do is I got to find like a mother figure, and I got to make money. So while I'm in there, I'm selling drugs and porn and, porn mags and tattoo ink. And, I learned how to tattoo in prison, actually. Yeah, and I got out and I
have one of the sketchbooks.
Oh yeah,
of your art is sitting over there. Yeah, from prison.
Yeah. I love art. It saved my sanity actually while I was in there, man. I would sit there and just draw and lose myself in the art,
Really?
and not think of my life circumstances. But yeah, I got out and, I had money on the streets waiting for me, that from money that I made selling drugs in prison. And, right out, I met the craziest girl I've ever met in my entire life. And she was also a stripper. And so, of course, I married her right away because we were perfect for each other, And, it wasn't toxic at all. It was toxic as fuck. And I started, this underground fight club with some of my friends that I knew from the shoe in prison. And, and basically it was, no rules. I'm the guy in the middle. I decide who's going to fight, and you don't know who you're going to fight beforehand. And nobody stops until I say they stop. And it was all about overkill. If you get knocked out, you're still getting stomped out. And I got out in June, and the first quarter of the next year, I hit best selling for my first felony fights in Best Buy, Sam Goody, and Tower back then. So I was like, shit, I'm a producer, whatever that is. And
I'm a fight promoter.
Yeah. I was like, legitimate. And I was just a gangster with a company. I was running around and I started making all these films, and I did felony fights. I did Queen of the Hood series, which is all girl fights. I did Porn Star Punch Out, hosted by Ron Jeremy, where I had porn stars boxing, Ron Jeremy as a ref. And then I started a porn company, and just went from there. And, and I got everything that I thought I ever wanted. I had my daughter, I had a wife, I was a multimillionaire, multiple houses, traveling, and I was getting loaded, and I always thought that the problem with me using drugs and alcohol was that like I run out of money, and then I got to do some violent thing to you to get money to get drugs. And I always thought, fuck, if everyone will leave me the fuck alone, I can get high how I want. Drugs aren't my problem, and it's crazy what happened. For me, I had money for attorneys and things like that. So when I'd get arrested for something, my attorneys would be there. I'd be bailed out. And so that run, that was the longest run I'd ever been on. I always get busted really fast, and going to prison, usually saves me. And this time, my bottom was not actually getting busted. What had happened was, I was going to court one day, and court wasn't for me. It was for a woman that lived out in the desert, and she used to be homeless, and we had helped her get a place and get on her feet. And And the homeless out there, she had a big heart for the homeless because she came from it and we helped her. And the homeless out in the desert, they were like dying of exposure and stuff like that. And people don't know about that kind of stuff. And, so we were trying to help, and she was trying to get visitation rights for her son. And I was supposed to go to court just to like be a stand-up guy, just to show up and, say how, we work with her. And I couldn't even be a good person, even for a moment, without doing what I always do, some kind of crazy shit. And so I'm drunk as fuck. It's 8 a.m. and, and the cop that comes out, the bailiff guy's talking in a tone that I didn't like. And, and so when we're going through the line to the metal detector, I'm talking shit about him to everyone else where he could hear. And I went through the metal detector, and I guess it's crazy because this is a God shot, because I didn't have any metal on me. I took everything off and the metal detector went off. And I was ignoring the cop. And so he grabbed my arm. And when he grabbed my arm, I instinctively hit him. And I'll be honest, I was as surprised as he was that I hit him. So I was like, holy shit. So I go running out of the courtroom, and I run all the way across, and this is in Pomona. And I run all the way across the parking lot. I was gone. And then I'm halfway up a wall to jump this wall, and ego kicks in, because don't you know who I think I am? And so I just drop down the wall and I start walking back to the court. And I was so drunk and crazy. And I remember the only thing that I was really thinking about was, I'm not going to allow them to take me to the ground because I have this nice Armani suit on. And so the cops come, and one of them tries to tackle me, and I just do a little side thing, and then one kicks my leg, and I lift the leg to block. And I was so proud of myself that they didn't take me to the ground, and I know. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that I'm a multiple striker, and I just hit a police officer. So they end up arresting me, and, I'm yelling in front of that court, do you know who I am? I'll be out in half an hour. And that was all brought up in court as well. So I get in there, and I end up getting bailed out, and I have a really good friend that was a criminal attorney, named Richard Pintel. And, he, comes and, does what he does. He was the best of the best. And I went on the run for a little bit, and then I came back.
How long did you run for?
Fuck. I think I ran for like 9 months. I went up to...
I had almost 10 years.
I went up to Clovis, which is outside of Fresno. And there are all these girls that I had gotten into the adult industry. And I'm just like, just all fucked up. Like, by this time I had... it was like my bottom, man. I had thrown out my wife, and she loved me, man. The sun rose and set with me, and I threw her out, and to this day, I don't know why, and I threw her out. My daughter had been taken, and, that was all the excuse I needed, because don't you know, I'm such a victim, and how dare, the state do this to me, and how dare the police arrest me. And I know, I lived my whole life, and as a victim, speaking fluent victimese. I always would run through, and I'd be running around.
I'm fluent, by the way.
Yes, I know you are. I remember. I remember when you came in, dog. Yeah, and I would be running the streets at 3 a.m, in shorts and a tank top, spun the fuck out, wondering, why are the cops fucking with me? It's like, come on. It's so funny to think about now, but dude, I did believe it. I always believed it was like, there was, I used my childhood always as the excuse, for what I was doing. And, people would try to tell me, why are you doing this? Or why you keep going back to prison? Or why? And I'd always be, I'd always use, if you had the childhood that I had, you'd be doing what I do. The funny part about that, though, is it took me until I was 32 to realize that, like, I had a traumatized little boy making adult decisions my whole life. And victims don't recover. Victims don't have good lives. Victims live a negative life. And that's, why I kept.
Take responsibility for it.
Yeah. I
Your
took
part in it.
my part. I had a part in everything. There was one common denominator to every fucked up situation I was ever in, every fucked up relationship, every fucked up friendship. One common denominator. That was me. And I could not see that. Like my whole life, I was in such denial, But yeah, I ended up going on the run, and I thought my lawyer took care of the case. And by this time, I was hopeless. I was so hopeless, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to live. I could never understand until this point that I have never had been a person that would be like, I'm going to kill myself, because I always thought that was like a cowardly way to go. I, though, would do a lot of things and put myself in a lot of situations where somebody would or could kill me. To me, that was like the way it should be. That's the way you should go. But like a gangster. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I ended up becoming very suicidal, and I just, would hope I wouldn't wake up a lot of times, and life was meaningless. And, one time in my moment of clarity, was actually not, getting busted, was not, kicking in a jail cell. It was actually in a multi-million-dollar house in Huntington Beach. I woke up alone with the person I hated the most, me. And, and I, for once in my life, I was out of ideas. My whole life, I always had an idea. I had an idea on what I'm going to do, and I had an idea on what you should do. And if everyone would just play their part, then everything's gonna be okay. But
we got it all figured out.
Yeah. And I finally was out of ideas, because everything, all these things that I always thought would change me or make me whole, had happened. I always thought, like I said, that like if I had enough money, I'd be happy and life would be good. I always thought if I could just find somebody that would love me, and be there for me. Because I never had that as a kid, and I found that person. I found her, and I that didn't make me whole. And one thing for sure is I never ever thought that I would never do to a child what was done to me. And there I sat, and I did the same thing to my daughter as what had happened to me. And even having a daughter didn't fix me. And back then, I didn't know about recovery at all, which is kind of weird because it's like so big, and I didn't know anything about it. And I'd heard about like AA, and I thought it was like a, room full of people, old people that complain about their problems. Sometimes it still is. But I didn't know about addiction. It never even occurred to me that I might be an addict, which is crazy. I
was the opposite. There was no mistaking it.
Well, I was in such an out because I was a drug dealer. So I was a drug dealer, not a scummy addict.
Right. I was a scummy addict.
Yeah.
I never tried that.
I looked down on anyone that used, but then I'd be using. But I wasn't using like them, because don't you know, I sell dope and I'm a gangster and all this crazy shit, and it's funny how, even on a side note, it's funny how like the hip hop culture, back in the 90s, it used to be about like, you got to be a drug dealer. If you say that you're like use drugs, it was like you're weak and a punk. Now hip hop, it's like, it's only about using drugs and, no more like gangster drug dealers, I think the problem started with skinny jeans. I think skinny jeans are the problem. Yep, that was it. Skinny jeans.
Fucked everything up.
Yeah. So, I don't even know what the fuck I was talking about. So, yeah. So, so I always thought, like something would fix me and this and that. And so there I am in my house that morning, and I was out of ideas, and I had tried everything. I had tried moving. I tried having a daughter. I tried, being married. I had money, and I didn't know what else. And then I realized right there is I must be insane. And that's what I thought the problem was, because I'm like, fuck, man, you know, they say if you're insane, you don't know you're insane. But then I'm thinking the fact that I just acknowledge that I'm insane, then am I not
crazy people
insane?
don't know they're crazy. They just walk around smiling all the fucking time.
Yeah. And I thought that, like, because who the fuck else would destroy their life over and over? And yeah. I didn't know there were more of us, dog. I really did think I was so unique. You know, I'm so unique.
Tattoo shops in a spoon.
For sure. Yeah. I fit everything. My soul. I don't even know if I got that back, though. You know what I mean? I don't think they
sold that.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would have wanted it. They had refunded it right away.
The devil doesn't even want your soul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I decided that, you know, that I must be crazy, and I was out of ideas, and I decided that I was going to commit suicide. And I'm kind of one of these guys that, like, if I make plans and I make a plan, I do it. So it's kind of dangerous, you know, like in prison. Everybody in prison doing time has all these plans that they're going to do, and they say they're going to do this and that when they get out, and they don't do any of the shit. Me, like when I was in prison, I'm like, okay, you know, when I was in YA, I remember thinking, okay, I was selling drugs. Now when I get out, I'm going to sell guns. And I got out and I started selling guns. And when I was in prison that last time, I was like, okay, I'm going to start this underground fight club. And I got all these people, all my contacts from in there, and I started an underground fight club. And so when I decided to commit suicide, I was definitely going to do that. And I was going to do it in 3 days. And I was going to get all of my stuff in order, and, you know, have it where, you know, everything I own goes to my daughter, and get all that taken care of. And I had a plan and how I was going to do it. And, you know, and so the next day I go to walk out of my house, and I'm raided, you know, and I was like, what the fuck? And so there I am in the back of the cop car as a victim, of course. Right. And I'm like, fuck you, God, for not even allowing me to end my life the way I wanted to. And I was so mad at God, you know, and I didn't know that
you had gotten rescued.
Yeah, by angels.
Not arrested, rescued.
Yeah, I was rescued by angels in police uniforms, I guess. And man, I hated cops back then, dude. Gosh. Yeah, my license plate on my BMW back then was Felon 88. That was my license plate. Really? And the gang squad and everyone would always
attract any attention.
They would always pull me over. And I loved that, like, I had money and and the cop would come up and I'd be like, hurry the fuck up. And they'd be like, what? And then I would be all pissed that they got me on the curb. I'm like, these motherfuckers fucking with me. Crazy, dude. Yeah.
All I did was disrespect.
I know. And I'd be talking shit while they're going through my car to try to fucking find shit. I'd be like, you better put every tissue back where it is, or I'm going to sue you. Yeah. I was such a pompous asshole. Still am sometimes.
Was?
No. So I'm in denial again. Yeah. So I end up getting arrested, and come to find out, you know, when you hit police officers, they don't drop those kind of charges. So, yeah, so they extradited me to, well, fuck, when I got busted, holy fuck, dude, did I kick so hard. And so I had been drinking 100 proof vodka straight out the bottle all day long. Like, literally, when I would wake up, I wouldn't even open my eyes. I'd reach down by the side of my bed and I'd grab the bottle. And,
if I slept the night before at all.
Well, I'd usually pass out is how it'd go. And I'd take a couple swigs and then open my eyes, and I had a shelf in my shower for the bottle while I was showering, and all through the day I would and it would make me normal. You know, I did all of Felony Fights, all of the porn stuff, all of Queen of the Hood, everything, and I was drunk at the whole time. You know, and then I also like party favors here and there. You know, drugs were my friend. You know, it comes down to, like, my drug of choice depended on what time in my life, to be honest.
Who else was doing it and all that good shit?
No, what would happen was I would do a drug, and I would lose my mind. I'd do too much and do some crazy shit. I'd get arrested, and then while I'm busted in there, I'd be like, oh, fuck, that drug's not for me.
Right.
And then I would get out and do a different one.
substitution.
Yeah, and I never would go back to the other ones, and it never occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, all of them are bad. Yeah, it never occurred to me. It's so fucking crazy, you know?
It was the Xanax that committed the crime.
Yeah. But you know what? Drugs worked for me for a very long time, you know, and they were my solution to life, you know, and I really believe that if I didn't have drugs and alcohol, that I would have killed myself a long time ago, probably as a child, you know? And I was drinking and using like real young, you know. My grandfather, we're Irish, so, you know, my grandfather would go and, you know, I'd be sitting next to him on the porch and he'd pour some alcohol into my little cup and I'd drink it, you know, and I found drugs like as real young, you know, but I really do think that they were like my lubrication to society. It made me like enough, you know, because I always say that like my whole life, I always struggled with not enoughness. That was my problem. I was never enough for a relationship. I was never enough for a room that I walked into. I was just never enough, you know, and when I would use, I'd be enough, you know, and you know, it's crazy because that solution, that was always my solution. I could always count on it, you know, it became my problem. And that's where hopelessness came in, you know, because it was like, fuck, you know, like it made me crazier and it wasn't taking away that hate, that self-hate that I had in me anymore. And I didn't know what to do, you know, and and I was saved. So I ended up, you know, kicking like super fucking hard. And I didn't tell the cops that I was kicking from alcohol because I'd heard you could die from DTs, and I was hoping that I was going to. And man, I was laying on the floor and there was a book in there and I put it in between my teeth because I was chattering so bad. And man, it was so bad. I never want to feel like that again, you know. And, you know, it's funny because like I hadn't had a sober thought in years because I would wake up drinking, I'd pass out and I would start it over and over. And
I did that for 10 solid years.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is, you know how you know when you have like those a crazy night and you were so fucked up and you did all this crazy ass shit, but you remember it and you're like, damn, I can't believe I did that with a goat. But
and I'm gonna do it again tonight.
Did I say that out loud? But you know when you have that when you wake up that way and you're like, holy fuck, that's how I woke up in that county jail from those last few years. I was like, holy fuck, what the fuck did I do? I threw out my whole life, everything. And you know, I was informed that they are going to put a no bail on me and try to put me away for the rest of my life. You know, and
that's all.
You know, looking back, it's like, you know, I was the poster boy for 3 strikes. Like, I wouldn't have wanted a person like me around my neighborhood. Right. I wouldn't have wanted me running around the streets. It was like all I did was take advantage of anyone and everyone that came in my path. And I was willing to do anything to you to get what I want. And it's crazy, you know, I was just a violent fucking crazy man, you know. But yeah, anyway, so I was in there, and that lawyer friend of mine, Richard Pintel, he was always, you know, he was such a good dude, and he was always like, he had my back, you know, with my friends getting busted with me, and he was just a really good guy too. And he came to see me, and by this time, you know, I had destroyed systematically every single distribution deal that I had for felony fights. And I had so many distribution deals throughout the world. And I would go in at the end there to these meetings with my distributors, and I would just like fuck off the deal just to prove a point that I didn't sell out. And I think really what it came down to is because I knew I sold out. And I wanted to prove to myself, I guess, you know. So I destroyed everything. And so when that lawyer came to see me, you know, I was like, bro, I don't have the money to you know, for you to represent me, you know. And he's like, I'm not doing it for money. And I didn't understand that, you know, because in my life, I felt like, you know, there was always an angle of everybody, and why were you in my life? it had to have some kind of string, and it's because I'm doing this for you or I'm doing that for you, and that's why you're in my life. And I guess I never knew that people could like just want to help you. And I didn't understand that concept. It's because I wouldn't help anyone unless there was an angle. And that's really why I didn't understand it. But he came and he tells me, he says, there's this drug program in jail, and he wants me to go in there while we fight the case and act like an addict. Yes. If he would have told me I'm an addict, I'd be like, fuck no, I'm not an addict, dude. And because I did not believe I was an addict.
It wasn't a hard role for you to play. Acting like an addict.
Oh, yeah. No. I thought I was, better than everybody. So, of course, I was acting like an addict. Only an addict like me can look down on you from a curb. Like judged everybody. Like I judged everybody for everything just to keep me separated, But yeah, so I told my lawyer when he said that, he's like, it's the only shot we got, man. We're going to postpone the shit out of this because they didn't really like how I was, hitting their police in that court, and then also screaming on who I think I am and all of that. So my lawyer, Richard, tells me that, we're going to put me in that program, show that I'm doing good. And it was funny because literally 2 weeks earlier, I'm in a house and I'm out of ideas and I'm going to kill myself because I'm out of ideas. And then all of a sudden an idea is presented to me and I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. Story of my life. I was always negotiating my terms of surrender. And so I told him, that like, let me think about it. That's what I told him. And he had me transferred anyway down there. I was so fucking mad, and I'd be blowing up his phone because I walk in, and take in mind, I don't know shit about recovery. I knew nothing about it. And I walk in and, we're in jail, man. And when you're in jail, to me, when you're doing time, there's politics. We go by politics. And I walk in there and you have all the races sitting with each other. And this guy walks up to me to help me with my bedroll. I'm like, hey, homeboy, you better fucking step the fuck away from me, dude. Don't touch my shit. And I looked around and they have like, they have this book that looks like the Bible. They got like a symbol that looks like the Illuminati symbol. They chant. They're like, if you leave us, you're going to die. And I look across and they had
So it was Scientology?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And I looked across the wall and it confirmed. And I saw they had the 12 steps and the 12 traditions on the wall. And I saw that word all the way across the room. That one word I hated so much. And it was God. And I was like, oh, fuck this. So I made an announcement to everybody in there. And I told them all, I'm not your friend. Don't fucking talk to me. And if you do, you're going to go to prison with me. I'm going to take you with me. And so needless to say, I only lasted a couple days in there. And they asked me, to leave. Of course, in handcuffs, they took me back. And, and I went back to mainline and got kicked out of that place. And, and then that lawyer friend of mine, Richard, came to see me, and I'm like, bro, you don't understand what's going on. It's like this weird cult, and it's a bunch of like child molesters. He
said, yes, I do. I'm in it.
and I said, a bunch of losers, and he says, I'm one of them. And I'm like, the fuck you talking about, dude? I said, no. Did you hear what I'm saying? Like, these are like weirdos. All these fucking weirdos that chant and do all this weird ass shit, bro. And I'm like, you're not. You're a professional. You are like a good dude. Like a
fucking lawyer.
And yeah. And he told me his story. And, and his story is he is an addict and he's in recovery. And it made sense now why he was trying to help me, and, in our program, that's what we do. We're supposed to help, the addict still suffering. And that was definitely
something you didn't see in yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I ended up, I ended up going to I ended up, getting a deal, and I was going to get out, and he had sent me back to this program, and I wouldn't admit I still didn't think I was an addict, but I did promise him I'd try to behave myself. And that was like real hard, dude, to like go in there and, and I didn't really behave myself. Every single time they would bring in speakers and shit, I would, disrespect them, and they would talk about like integrity is a spiritual principle. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's looking. And I would say bullshit. Whenever they would say that integrity shit, I'd say bullshit. There's no such thing as integrity. And I believed that, my whole life. And I would say, integrity is situational. And in my experience, I could always corrupt you no matter how loyal you think you are to your wife.
Everything's got a price.
Yeah, I'll find the right girl and put her in front of you, and you will betray your integrity. Or if I can't do it with that, I would do it with money or fear. And I had never met anyone that I couldn't corrupt. And so I didn't believe, I didn't believe in this program. I because of that integrity piece. I didn't buy into this whole recovery thing because I didn't believe in, what they said integrity and all of that was, and I didn't also believe I was an addict because I never used ever when I was incarcerated, and I did a lot of time, and I would get loaded on the streets. I'd be crazy. I'd get busted. I'd kick. And, when I was very young, my older homeboys told me, that there's, if you do 3 things, you'll get by really well in prison, and YA and all of that. And it was, don't gamble, don't use dope, and don't fuck with punks were the rules. And, and I stuck to those rules, and I would sell in there, but I wouldn't use. And so for me, that's why I kept thinking I'm not an addict, and, but what I didn't realize is like, as soon as I would hit the streets,
I went in without and came home with a habit.
Yeah, you're the kind of guy I love selling drugs too.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You're the kind of guy I love.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
It's so ironic. Here we are talking about prison and all this shit, and I am getting prison tattoos covered. I've been getting tattooed since I was 13 years old. I thought I was so hard. I was in junior high, and I had Solo on my knuckles and Orange County on my arm.
My first tattoo when I was 18. Me and my father went together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Being an artist growing up, I saw friends getting shit, and I was just like, I don't know.
I hadn't gotten a professional tattoo until I was 32 years old, and I got felony fights on my forearms. That was my first professional tattoo. All my whole body's covered in prison ink, and why
I've been covering it for years.
Yeah, I know, for years. Church is going over my whole body. I can't wait for you to get to my cock. Oh.
What do you got on it now?
Nothing yet. I want a tattoo of a bigger dick on my dick.
Right.
Yeah.
A tattoo of my dick.
Yeah.
I want a portrait of Brad Pitt like right here.
That's good.
Fuck, man. So I guess, I don't know. I want to talk about like how Stairways came to be. And how, more importantly, like, I got a phone call when I was in Baltimore, doing the whole trap house thing like I had done my whole life. That was my hustle. You know?
Yeah.
I used to say the house is the hustle. We don't have to go anywhere to make money if you And I get a phone call, it was
by our crazy friend.
Yeah, we're not even gonna go there. The bottom line is somebody had told you about me, and you knew I needed help. And
I looked you up, and I was like, dude, award-winning artist, and he's a drug addict like me, destroying his life over and over. Yeah, I identified.
It's funny to get to know this crazy junkie.
Yeah.
So I get that call, and within like 3 days, I was on a plane. That was it. It was all she wrote.
Yeah.
But I guess when I got here, you already had Stairways. You already had.
I had something to help
how many
you with.
houses? Yeah.
I had something to help you with. Yeah.
What? Aside from just having something to help me with, the willingness to change your own life is ultimately, you know, dude, you have affected countless lives. It's impossible to even count, you know?
I appreciate that.
Well, it's not even so much a compliment, it's stating a fact. Like, that's your thing. That's what you do now.
It is my thing.
When we did the introduction, I said, you know, instead of advocating violence, he helps knuckleheads like me these days. And it is truly like a testimony to, you know, how this thing works, because dude, you're the complete opposite of the person that you described, you know, early on in this whole fucking
It's proof of God.
podcast.
It's proof of God. I can prove that it's not me. I can prove it. And people will say, I hear it all the time, oh, you help so many people, or you thank you. And honestly, it isn't of me. And that's not me being humble. That's me telling the truth. And I can prove it, because I was anti-God and there was no God in my life. And it was through the program and the third step in particular that I found God, or God found me how he wanted to. And since then, like everything prior, if you came in my life, I had a negative effect on your life, anyone that came around me. And all of a sudden this God piece comes in, and honestly, it's like all of a sudden I'm wanting to help people. I'm wanting to do this shit. I could give a fuck about helping people when I came in, dude.
I think that's a really valid point, though. Like, because same for me in the beginning. I didn't want to help anybody. And now I'm to the point where it's the complete opposite.
Absolutely.
And that's a result of...
And now we get to do it
working
together.
the steps and sticking around.
Yeah.
But it's also like, you say it's God, but you have to allow that.
Absolutely. I have to have the willingness to allow God to use me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is my part, is I do allow God to use me today. And you know, I fall short a lot, but I want to have God help my life, because I did it on my own and I couldn't figure it out. I could not live life on life's terms, and life was meaningless. And today it's like, I think I have the dopest life in the world, dude. And, you know, it was many years, and in recovery, I got out and I was anti the cult still, not believing I'm really an addict. And you know, when I'd gotten arrested for hitting that cop, I owned multiple homes. I had cars, you know, all this stuff, business accounts. And by the time I got out, I'm fighting that case. I fought it for a year and 4 months. I had nothing. The businesses were taken. A weird thing happens if you don't pay mortgages. They like take your shit.
They don't let you keep it?
No, it's crazy. And once again, I was like a victim. You know what I mean? How dare they take the shit that I don't pay on?
Been there.
Yeah. But, you know, by the time I got out, I had nothing. Nothing. Literally, all houses with everything in them, my clothes, everything was gone, and I had $3. And the clothes that I got arrested in, which weren't very cool, you know. But and my homeboy came to pick me up, and he bought me 2 pairs of pants, you know, and I went to East LA. I was the only white guy running around East LA, and you know, I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I'm not from LA, you know, and I had told myself, you know, in there, I had a lot of time to think, and I finally had seen, though, that I was the cause of all of the pain that was happening in my life. And that finally occurred to me that, you know, I don't know how to live life, and my life had become unmanageable because I was managing it the whole time. And, you know, I met a guy.
You're a shitty manager.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this. I always think like this. It's like the CEO of a company. If you had a CEO of a company and he went to the shareholders and he's like, all right, I got this idea, and then just destroys the whole company, right? Then he comes back to the shareholders like, all right, check it out. I got a different idea, but it's actually the same. Let's do it. And then destroys the company over and over. That motherfucker would have been fired a long time ago. But yet I was in such denial. You know, I had a terrorist making decisions for me, and that was me, you know. But I didn't know any other way, and I couldn't trust anyone or anything, you know, and I couldn't. I couldn't trust anyone, and God had a weird way, because that attorney he was there for me, and he tricked me into this program, man, and another God shot that happened is there's this guy that you guys are going to be interviewing, Bruno. Mm-hmm. I used to be on these porn sets and stuff, and I remember I first saw him, and he had same kind of prison tattoos I had.
Lighting and shit, right?
Yeah, he owned a lighting company in the adult industry, as well as mainstream. He's done like the movie Spider-Man, all this different shit. But like, I would see him on these sets, and I'd be so fucked up, and I would see his tattoos, and I remember like, thinking, of course he's still, part of the game like I am, because you don't get out of the game. You're just in the game. And I would talk to him about all this prison shit and all this, and I did my whole background on him, and, he's a gangster, a real gangster. He's a killer. And, and I would talk to him about all this stuff, and he would say things like, isn't it cool, like, people like you and I can be out here living this life? And I wasn't getting what he was saying. I'm like, yeah, we're gangsters with companies. And, when I was in that rehab in jail, I fucking hated my counselors and all that. I hate anyone with authority, and I had this counselor that would just, man, he would make me so mad, and I would just fantasize about how when I get out, because I found out that there's these things going on, and everyone knows each other, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'll be able to find this motherfucker, and I would fantasize about how I'm gonna just fuck this guy up. By the way, how dare him talk to me the way he's talking to me? He's telling me the truth. He was telling me the truth, and I didn't like it. You know what I mean? How dare you know me? And, it's funny because he says, it's going to be hard for you to find a sponsor. And I'm like, of course it's going to be hard for me to find a sponsor. I'm not doing it.
Because I don't want one.
No, and I was like, I looked at this whole game, because I didn't understand it. And I looked at it all as like a multi-level marketing thing, And I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. So there's a sponsor over you and a sponsor over them and a sponsor over them. And so I told my counselor, I said, listen,
pyramid scheme.
I don't talk to middlemen. You get me the head dude, I'll sit down with him and see what he's got to say. And I didn't understand it. I thought there's like one guy at the top. There's got to be if it goes up, right? And
he's John Gotti.
Come to find out, there is one at the top, which is God. Didn't know that at the time, And but so, I was all confused about this shit. And then, and my counselor says to me one time, he's like, I found the perfect sponsor for you. And I laughed, and he's like, he's my sponsee brother. And I was like, shit. And I'm thinking in my head, because I'm trying to behave for my lawyer, so I didn't tell him what I thought. But I was thinking, anyone related to your punk ass, I ain't fucking with, dude. And he's like, he's done more time than you. He understands the adult industry as well. He owns a lighting company, and his name's Bruno. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I told my counselor, I said, that's weird. I know a guy named Bruno that owns a lighting company, but he's a solid dude. He wouldn't be part of this lame cult. And because I did my homework on him. He was a gangster. And so he puts me on the phone, and it's this Bruno that I knew. I was like, what the fuck? And I knew he was like me. I knew he was, he was the real deal. Not one of these guys, that like, I fucking, I was on a level 1 yard fucking in the county jail.
All these kids call themselves gangsters.
Yeah.
Because they emulate fucking rappers.
Yeah. But he was the real deal. He spent, his whole life in and out like me, and so it's weird. He gets on the phone and he's like, hey bro, I know you don't understand this shit. He's like, but, don't trip, dude. I got you, and we're going to do this together. And that night, I'm laying on my rack, and there was this, my counselor had said to me, because I would always tell them that, they're punks and this program's for weak-minded people following weak-minded people. And my counselor had said to me, if you're so fucking, you can do anything and you're so tough, do this for 1 year, but do it the way we say, do all 12 steps and come back and call me a punk. And I'm like, man, anyone could do this. And
takes a stronger man to relinquish.
Little did I know. You know what I mean? It's the toughest thing I've done in my entire life. And I was laying on my rack that night, and remember what I said. One of the reasons I wouldn't do this program is because I didn't believe there was a such thing as integrity. And this is another God shot that happened to get me to wake the fuck up. Is, I'm laying on my rack, and I remember, and I'm just tripping over Bruno. I remember I'm at the porn convention that happens every January of every year, and I'd always have a booth, and it'd be like half felony fights, half porn, and I'd have all the girls that I represent there, and this is right before, this is like a month before, I'm rated, and I'm just trying to hold it together. I'm so fucked up and I'm miserable, and I'm there at the booth with all the girls and stuff, and I see Bruno walking down the aisle, and I was like, oh shit, what's up, bro? And so he comes up to my table, and I'm like, hey dude, I rented a house out here in Vegas, and I have all these girls. You can fuck whoever you want, man. Just come and party, tonight. And he says to me, yeah, not today, bro. And I remember thinking at the time, what? Who the fuck? Like, what?
Who turns that down?
And it's funny because when Bruno tells his story, when he speaks, he always says, and there was a redhead, because he's all about redheads. And it's crazy because there I am, fast forward, and I'm on my rack after talking to Bruno on the phone. And I was like, wait a minute. No one would have known that he did that.
That was integrity.
No one would have known. And his wife wasn't there. No one would have known. And I realized on that rack, I said, oh my God, he did it because he's part of this cult. And I'm like, holy shit. And I thought to myself, there's one person that has integrity. And I really believe that God had that happen to me to see it, to see that it can be, and I made a decision that night that I'm going to try this for 1 year. I'm going to do it the way Bruno says. Then I'm going to come back and call my counselor a punk and that it doesn't work. And, I started seeing that it actually works for people. And the problem with me is I thought that I was
still friends with the counselor by any chance?
I love that counselor to death. That guy is such a good friend of mine.
I know that.
He is the most humble dude I've ever met. I didn't realize at the time what he was doing. He's trying to save my life.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to wake me the fuck up, because I just could not get through the denial, of my life and my part
so
in
you
it.
obviously started to fucking get this thing.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a little bit because we might run out of time at some point.
Okay.
How and when did the whole idea for Stairways?
So here's what happens: is because
you guys had like the vape shop.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I did Cage.
A cool trend.
I did Cage versus Cons, clean. I had the largest. I made history in California as the largest MMA show first, even bigger than UFC's. First show in California. I had 14,000 people at the LA Sports Arena, and it was professional mixed martial arts with cops fighting cons, all day hip hop festival and tattoo festival. And I did that. I did a few of those. I did trap flicks with Snoop Dogg. I did a lot of products and a lot of things with Ghostface Killer from Wu-Tang. And I was, back in entertainment, I was doing it clean, and recovery made it where I wasn't destroying my life. And all of a sudden, I had 9 years clean. And I thought, this is what life is. And I used to think that I guess I thought that because I'm clean and I'm doing steps that I'm not going to have life on life's terms, And what ended up happening, that attorney guy that had saved my life, he became like my father figure. And we spent all holidays together. And he taught me really what it was to be a man, him and Bruno. And he loved me. And what happened was he got cancer, and I didn't believe that he was going to die because I had faith in the program. It's not going to happen. And he died. And, and we're so close. I'm the executor of his estate for his son. It's, a gangster, criminal, dope fiend like me. Mm-hmm. And so that really spun me out, and then, I was cliff jumping. I hadn't quite processed it. I was cliff jumping out in Nevada, and I jumped off this crazy ass high cliff and into water, and I broke my back. I shattered my T12, and they held me out, and they're telling me that I'm probably not going to walk again.
That was a year before I came out here. Because I asked you when we were at the vape shop one day. I was like, when the hell did all this shit happen?
Yeah.
Because you didn't look like,
yeah,
broken your fucking back to me.
Yeah, I had to learn to walk again and all that. And I was with a girl. Named, ironically, her name's Karma. And it was my karma. But so I was with a girl, and and I loved her, and it's hard for me to really love, and she was always like begging me to marry her and telling all my friends, and when I broke my back, I was in the hospital for a month going through these surgeries and all this stuff, and she didn't leave. She went right to the hospital and didn't leave, and she was there. And, I took that as loyalty. And so, I got out of the hospital. So here's what happens with the stairway thing. I'm in the hospital, and because I own these vape shops and all these other tattoo shops, all these different companies, everything, I always had addicts around and addicts involved. And because I was in recovery, I knew a lot of addicts, and people would call me all the time for help, and I would try to find them like safe places, good sober livings that, they could be safe and
it's hard to come by,
dude. And
a lot of them are in it for just the money.
They're horrible. So there are so many in Los Angeles, and I ran out of places to refer people that wanted help, and because they were either body brokering or just using our people like a commodity, having them get high, not giving a shit about them, just as long as they could get their rent, and so I'm in the hospital, and I get a call from some guy, some kid, and he's asking me if I know of a place, and I fucking didn't know of one that I could actually say that would help him, that I knew that was doing it the right way. And so I told Travis is he's like my brother, and we used to get loaded together and everything together, and we got clean together. When I got clean, he followed me into the program a year later, and we've done every business together and everything. And
he's a partner here.
He's a partner here, yeah. Yeah.
He's a pretty quiet individual. So when we talk about how this whole thing goes, it's always me and you.
Yeah.
He's a big part of it too.
Yeah. And so, I told Travis, I said, why don't we do a sober living the way it worked for me? And so we were thinking about,
fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, and Travis is always that way, whatever. We're like, all right,
sure,
let's do it.
Give it a try.
And so I get out and I marry this girl, Karma, and she leaves me 2 weeks later to sign a porn contract. And it was devastating,
for people watching, it is that Karma.
Yeah. Next year, she was Starlet of the Year. It's very heartwarming to watch your wife get gangbanged, I gotta say. You know what I mean? It's just, it brings such heartwarming feelings to you. Yeah. But, it was some humility that I needed, to be honest with you.
We've talked about it before. I said basically,
God did for me what I wouldn't do for
monster.
myself. And I'm definitely an artist of painting red flags green, and that was one of those situations. But it was just, from my friend dying to breaking my back to her leaving, and it all happened all at once. And I was in such a dark place that I had not been since the time that I was going to kill myself. And I had 9 years clean. And I remember Bruno, he's my sponsor, and I called him and I said, what, fuck the program and fuck God, and where's mine? And he's my sponsor is such a good dude. Like, he didn't point out to me that this has all been a gift, every single moment. I'm supposed to be in prison for the rest of my life. I shouldn't even be out here. Or dead, with all the crazy shit I've been involved in, man.
I'm not sure how
and so
made it out alive either.
Well, we know why now.
Yeah.
We know why now.
Well, yeah, you're right.
But and so what happened was I start this little thing called Stairway, and I stepped away from my entertainment business, and at that face, Ghostface was one of my business partners from Wu-Tang, and I took a pause in entertainment, and I was so broken, and I had started this little sober living, and I got these guys, and I would take them to every meeting, and every day, all day I spent with them. And
you said it started as a passion project.
Yeah.
I remember hearing you say that. You didn't actually say that to me.
Yeah, it started as a passion project because, if you're doing sober living the right way, you're never going to make money on it. That's what a lot of people don't know. You're not. There's no money in it if you're doing it the right way. You're going to lose a lot of money. And but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's crazy because out of that darkness, like, the most beautiful flower grew. And I had no plan. That's the craziest part. I just kept showing up, and I did no marketing whatsoever. My phone would ring. And I'd be like, all right, I'll help you. All right, I'll help you. And
You know, I tattoo a lot of the brokers. You know, I did a lot in the past, but I would tell them that. I'm like, the reason that things aren't going well for you is because there's no fucking ethics.
that's right.
None. You're a piece of shit.
That's right.
It's
That's
never
right.
going to grow into what you think it should.
That's right. And
Which
and I happen to believe that, like, if you are taking advantage of God's broken people, there's going to be consequences, man.
Absolutely. There's
And
spiritual consequences for everything.
There are
but-
spiritual consequences for everything we
But
do.
in that case, the consequences are severe.
Yeah,
You know, it's-
absolutely. Well, we look at all these brokers and these people that are using our people like a commodity. Almost all of them overdose and die. Almost all of them.
Yeah, I know.
And you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, man. And it's unfortunate because they're killing a lot of good addicts, man. You know, they're part of the problem. But so I ended up starting this thing, and my phone would ring, and I would, you know, the second house was funny because we filled up so fast, and then the second house, I just moved out of my own house. I'm like, fuck it, and filled that one. And then, you know, before you know it, it's like no plan is so crazy because what it looks like today, it's like we're numbers wise the largest in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
And
When I came out here, I remember hearing we would all congregate together.
Mhm.
You know, it was 72 guys, maybe 70 guys.
yeah,
And I remember specifically the one night we were talking about how there was 72 guys and there wasn't a single dirty urine.
I know.
And it was like, what?
It's
How
crazy.
the fuck is that even
It is
possible?
crazy. Even today, it's like, dude, we rarely have relapse. We have 110 addicts always under our care. We've had thousands of addicts come through our program, and it is amazing. And the thing is it's not anything, some secret that I did. And everyone's always asking me, how are you doing it? Like they flew me out to be the keynote speaker at an opiate summit in Michigan. And it was all about like, how is it that you're able to figure this out? And really it's simple. We're just doing the right things. And the right thing is we make addicts do steps. We make them do steps. We make them be of service. And to me, success isn't...
Yeah, it's the only place I've ever been where it's a requirement.
Well, success to me isn't how many addicts come into our program and stay clean, to be honest with you. I failed if that's all that happens. Success is turning a selfish, self-centered person into a person that not only gets the gift of recovery, but gives it back. And the people that give it back, that's the success.
What happened with me, that's exactly where I am now.
That's right.
I went from fucking, you know, broke fucking junkie from Baltimore, didn't know a single fucking person out here.
Yeah.
You know, and I started to click because I watched you and I watched Travis and I watched some people that came before me, and you guys, you know, made it abundantly clear that the community itself was the most important thing.
That's
and I
right.
stuck in it. I'm still part of it.
That's
4
right.
years in.
That's right.
You know, now we got a shop where we can bring
That's
other
right.
fucking
That's right.
junkie tattoo artists.
That's right.
Smile when you say junkie.
That's right.
You know, it's just it's crazy.
Well, your
dude. It
story
really
is so dope because it's like, dude, I just wanted to help people. And it's so crazy because I got gifted. Like I have the most amazing friends in my life. And a lot of them started with me just helping them get clean. And it's like you, it was like you came out here, talented artist. You know, you were like in such a like rush to do this and do that. And and it's like you were tattooing for food stamps, dude. You know what I mean?
Yep.
With all these little addicts and it's like,
whatever I could get work out on the street, I would trade just, you know, so people could see what I was capable of.
and you would sit all day in a shop and you would talk to a guy that was your sponsor that worked in the shop.
Yep.
And,
Draw
you know,
constantly.
and now you are not only sponsoring guys, you're helping other artists, you're helping men, you know, and the thing is how beautiful.
And it's
like,
just funny because I knew the concepts.
Yeah.
You never actually lived them.
Yeah.
One of the things I said to you when I came out here is, yeah, I get it. Feed man, serve man. Whatever.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But-
Knowledge is one thing.
Yeah.
But-
Application.
That's right.
Yeah, I actually had somebody say that to me a long time ago.
That's right.
They were like, dude, you got all the knowledge in the world, but you don't apply any of it.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
time around.
And consistency, you know, consistency is the big game here. And it's like, you know, if you consistently do one thing, you're going to be good at it. And That's what recovery is. It's consistency. And you consistently do the same things. And before you know it, you wake up one day and you look around like me today. It's like I look at my life and I'm like, what the fuck?
You told me that early on. Consistency is the key. And I applied it to other areas, like with the artwork.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit about how much fucking money it made. Let me do something really nice so that it goes out and more comes back. And
it's crazy how the game works. It's funny. I'm a guy that doesn't have any formal education. None. I have a crazy ass rap sheet, and now I have like these businesses. Like one of them, is a trauma center. We help with trauma, with these addicts, and your wife works with us.
It's so funny. I always make the joke that I'm like, did you even graduate high school?
No.
I'm like, so here's a fucking high school dropout.
Yeah.
Straight up, felon, like, several times convicted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The doctors work for him.
No, I know. The funniest part is at our center, everyone has we have the best of the best, and I have all these people and they all have all their degrees on the walls and shit. And I'm the only one there without a degree. And it's funny, literal psychiatrists and medical doctors work for me to help addicts. And it's it's just proof that and I am not.
That's the important point to make is that there's that common interest in just helping people.
Well, I think that God, when I started helping people and dedicating my life to doing that from that broken place, because I was helping people before when I came into recovery, but not to that extent, when I hit that bottom, clean. And since then it's been I dedicate my
wallet and help you look for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think that God, if you have the right motive and the right heart, God does his part and shows you who to help, and I don't think it's our job to decide who that is, what it looks like. It's just, we show up. We just show up and we consistently show up.
I always say God will carry you, but you got to take the first steps.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah. And everyone always asks me all the time, are you going to go back to entertainment? And, I don't know, but I got to say, I've never in my entire life ever felt like I was the right place at the right time doing the right thing. I've never had those three together. And I can say today, I literally feel that way.
Well, it's funny because I look at you as that guy who'd probably be down to get into some stuff like that. Even when I mentioned doing this, I figured it's right up your alley. Mm-hmm. You're so busy with the other thing, and it's it's just who you are these days.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is true. The podcast, all this type of stuff, entertainment is totally up my alley. But it's crazy because I tell myself, oh, I'm going to do these other things, but God keeps having more addicts show up to help, more people come into my life that actually know how to do things build a different, we did a medical practice, all these different businesses that are all geared towards helping addicts. And I don't know, man, I'm passionate about it. I love it. I can't see myself doing anything else, to be honest.
Well, you're good at it because, I wouldn't be where I am without you. Straight up, without you and Travis. And it's crazy because you basically, I tell people all the time, I'm sometimes I'm telling them jokingly, but the bottom line is you guys were you signed a fucking lease, you opened a fucking bank account and you said, here.
Yeah.
Do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And trust you.
Other than that, you really have nothing to do with it. I don't want to know.
What do you mean, dog? I'm the face. Oh, not anymore. Damn it. That was a long time ago.
I say that because I don't know. But I saw that as an example.
Yeah.
And when I brought Vinny.
I wanted to help you fulfill your dream, dude. That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
Above and beyond. But you created. In setting the example, you created a man who wants to create other leaders.
That's right.
And that's what I told Vinny when he came out here. I said, I got you out here. I help you get your shit together, but I want you to rise to the point where I am and surpass it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to just fucking work for me.
And then his ass needs to be helping people. That's the game. Absolutely.
It's he's got a piercer buddy in Baltimore who's fucking. It's
the only way that
he's got some addiction issues and. He doesn't give a shit. He's partying his ass off. It maybe someday, You can sit back there and do piercings, and we can fucking help
You know what I
him
would love
or
to see, dude?
whatever the case may be.
I want to see Interstate Inc. all over the place, and it's all just like with Stairway with the homes. Interstate Inc. can do the same. It's like if it can get out there that if you are a struggling artist and you want help, we'll help you
right
and fulfill your dream.
Vinny I told him, I said, all you have to do is show up.
Yes,
that is it.
He didn't believe it, just like everyone else.
Well, he said, fuck it, and he took the plunge, just like I did.
Yeah.
But the difference was when I did it, there was no groundwork laid. I laid the groundwork.
Right.
So at this point, I'm like, Vinny, all you have to do is show up.
Right.
So he shows up. I literally pick him up from the airport. He's got a backpack.
Yeah, he's got a chair at a shop.
Broken dentures.
Yeah.
Right? So
and his crazy ass dreadlocks that
I
stink.
paid for his fucking flight. Scholarshiped him to Silver Living.
Yeah.
The boy didn't even have supplies. He had 2 tattoo machines and nothing else. I'm like, here you go. What else you need?
Yeah.
Here you go. What else you need?
Yeah.
Now he's fucking making a living.
Yeah.
His old ladies out here.
Yeah.
With
the
their kid and
yeah.
another Sober Living.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it won't be long. They'll get to the point where they get their own place.
It's the pebble effect.
And it just keeps growing.
That's right. That's right. We use if we use all the skills that we had when we were out there, we can use that to help people and whatever it is, whatever your passion is, you know?
Somebody the other day was like, I don't really know how to ask somebody to be my sponsor. I said, act like you're going to ask him for a bag of dope.
That's right.
Because you would not hesitate to ask a fucking stranger for heroin.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
but you got to make sure you tell them
you look like a grimy fuck. You got some dirt I can shoot in my neck?
But you might want to tell them that you don't offer to suck his dick for a sponsorship. You know what I mean?
Wait, that's not how it works?
Oh. That could be.
Yeah, man. Ray lied to me.
Yeah, Ray lied. No.
Man.
It's a crazy thing, man. You know, life is about change.
Well,
Going with the change.
I've been trying to. There's a big ego factor, you know. Doing this, people fucking place you on a pedestal, and
I get it.
I had to learn the difference between cocky and confident.
That's right.
You know, but above and beyond that, this whole thing, the whole podcast, where it came from was somebody said, "You've established the business. Now, what's going to sell the business further is your story."
Yeah.
And I thought, what kind of fucking egomaniac would I be if I just sit and tell my story over and over and over again when there's so many more stories to be told?
Yeah.
That's
and each
where we're
person,
at now. I think,
yeah.
Vinny, what's this, like the 6th, 7th one we've done? We've only aired one so far, like on YouTube and stuff like that.
We did 7, but we're only using 6.
Yeah. Never in my life would I think that I'd be
sicker than others.
Never in my life would I think I'd be wanting to censor something ever. You know what I mean? It's ironic, I gotta say. Yeah, man. Usually I was the one that was getting censored.
Yeah, there was really no hesitation either. He says, "Yeah, about that one."
Yeah.
So no, it's fine. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I just I reached a point where I simply couldn't do it anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Because make no mistake, I'm good at it. I'm excellent at it. Practice makes perfect. We get 25 years of fucking practice using drugs. I can keep it moving. But I was drained and dead inside.
Yeah, how miserable, yeah.
Shell. Like,
I know.
I had no fight left in me, and I was really just tired of fighting anyway, man.
I always say about recovery, it's like I had zero idea what this was, and it's absolutely impossible to explain to anyone, really. And it's like
that reminds me of one of my favorite sayings is you say it all the time.
It's like describing the
color purple to a blind man.
That's right.
You have to experience
That's
it
right.
to realize just how fucking crazy it is, how amazing it can be. Like,
it's like a broken heart. If anyone's ever had a broken heart, how do you describe that in words? You're like, all right, it's like, it feels like it's like ripped out, ripped apart, but kind of on fire. But then you also drag it down the street. Like, you can't describe that feeling of a broken heart. You can read about it all you want. If you've never had it, you don't know what it is. Same thing with recovery. It's like when you get this thing inside of you, which is, I think, God, you know, through recovery, and it changes you. And it's a feeling that I never knew. And I now know, when I used to read about it, that word serenity. I actually have that. I'm okay. And, you know, I'm enough. That's what I always struggled with before. Not enoughness. And today I'm enough. I'm enough for this room. I'm enough for a relationship. I'm enough for friendships. I'm enough. I'm not better than, but I'm enough. You know, that's what I think.
Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Broken Crayons podcast here at Interstate Inc. Please like, share, comment, help us spread the word so these voices can be heard. Peace.